Hi, I'm Tom. I was spraying the other day and my old tow-behind spreader decided to give up the ghost, and the parts I needed were going to be about $175. And so I happened to look on Amazon and I found this ATV or UTV sprayer for $200, and I said, well, that doesn't even make any sense to buy parts when I can buy a brand new one for like $25 more. So today we're going to take it out of the crate, we're going to put it together and give it an initial use, and then you can decide for yourself whether it's worth buying or not. And I don't get paid for this review. I'm just want to share with you something that probably happens to more than one of you when you buy something and then a couple years later it's no good, and you look at parts and then you reverse it towards a new one. I'm sure this happens to you all the time where you buy something and then a couple years later it gives up the ghost, and you start looking at parts and then you find that it's cheaper just to buy another one than it is to buy the parts. And I think that's by design to keep you buying new things. But regardless, today I'm going to take you through the setup process and initial use of this sprayer. So like I said, I bought this on Amazon. It's a master manufacturing, but it has a little bit bigger pump than what I had before, and I told myself the next time I have to buy a sprayer, I'm going to get one that goes on my gator, and that way it's going to be able to be used everywhere. And this one does have a boom on it, so I can do the fields as well as the fruit trees. Amazingly, it's actually engineered and assembled in the US, and that's a pretty typical thing these days globally, source components. It just means some of the plastic stuff, and you can't even buy a garden tractor or a car or anything, and they say it's made in the US, but you know, all the parts are made somewhere else for the most part. So anyway, take it for what it's worth, made in the United States. It still was a good deal to me. It seemed like for 200 bucks. Anyway, let's get this thing together. So here we are initially out of the box. Here's the tank, got the cover, I got the parts to the boom, I got a couple hardware kits here, and then I've got some pretty decent instructions. You got one here for the boom assembly, and then you got one here for the ATV mount. So we'll go through these really quickly together. Alright, so what do we need for tools to get this job done? We need pipe dope, some sort of pliers. These are just slip joints, but that's what was in the picture, was slip joint pliers, so that's what we have. A knife, and a half-inch socket. The instructions so far seem like they're really well laid out, really well designed, and I think this is going to be a breeze. Time will tell. It also comes with this instruction booklet here. So you've got these cards. There's two cards, one for the boom, one for the spot sprayer. All right, you have to hunt for it a little bit, but once you look at the instruction cards for a little bit, you'll see that you want to do your ATV mount assembly first, and then your spot sprayer assembly, and then move on to the boom. So that's how we'll go ahead and put this together. We're going to do it just like it says. Sorry, the sprayer head is over here on this side, so you want to make sure that the end with multiple holes faces back towards the pump sprayer head. Parts bag here. I've got some washers, and I've got half-inch bolts. So we're going to go ahead and, again, when you use washers, there's a cut side and a round side. You always make the cut side facing towards the out, not the in. So we'll go ahead and start these on there, and don't over tighten it. What's the definition of over tightened? Well, just make it snug, and that will be plenty sufficient to keep it on there. If you over tighten it, these are just little plastic inserts and you'll strip them out, so be very careful of that. Alright, now we're going to take these spring mounts right here. There's two of them, and you're going to use these last two holes, and the handle part's going to face in towards the tank body. We're going to fasten those on with 3/4 bolts and flange nuts. So again, make sure your spring handle is facing in. You're the last two out. We're going to drop these 3/4 bolts down through, and it just takes a little bit of finesse to get them in there. It's not going to fit so well, so pull this back, drop it in, they'll set right there. Here's the boom, and it's held together with tie wraps, so they're diagonal cutting pliers. So we'll cut this off, and you don't want to nick your hose, so be super careful how you cut it. It's really tight on here, so just find a place where you're not going to cut that hose, and go ahead and nip these off real quick. So we have two nozzles that are going to be on the boom, and for each one of these we need one of these strainers right here, and this will keep you know, any kind of residue or junk that is in your tank from plugging up your little nozzle right here. So we're going to put this in first. You can do this times 2. So put your screen in. There's a gasket, and it doesn't matter which way it is because it's the same on both sides. There's some little notches here that these will corrugate with these ears. So you're going to set that down on there and just twist it. So we'll go ahead and do that with the other one, and then I'll be back. For this next part, you may or may not need a helper, but you're going to want to put pressure on this because you have to separate these 2 arms right here, and there's going to be 2 bolts that go through it, one down through the top and one down through the middle. So basically down and out, or down and out. And come down through there, put that in there, and then these flange nuts actually have a surface on it that makes it so that it doesn't spin. It's almost like a lock nut. We'll just hand tighten those. And then this one out like that. You could just use your slip joint pliers on the other side, but it's not my favorite way to tighten the bolt. So we'll just hold this end like so, and tighten it up. You just want to make it snug. You don't want to crank it down because then you'll go ahead and bust the bolt off and bad things happen. So just snug it up. It's not going to go anywhere. In this part, the instructions aren't super clear, so I'm referring to the box. And it looks like the second slider hole here, we're going to use the 1-inch flange bolts. So we'll come in the second slider hole here, and you want to have it facing in according to what the box picture looks like. And the second hole on the uprights with a flange bolt, or a flange nut on there, I should say, I'm sorry. And I'm just going to hand tighten this one right now until I get the rest of it together and see if this is actually going to be where I want it before I crank it down. So I'm going to do the same on the other side. The next step, this is your boom hose right here, and it looks like just a regular garden hose adapter on the end of it. It's definitely not an N type. So we're going to make sure that washer is seated in there correctly, and then we're just going to go ahead and thread that onto the valve right here. Alright, now that I have these on, I'm not going to crank it down just yet, because what I want to do is make sure all this fits together right. I don't want to have these off at a little bit of an angle, then it doesn't fit together. So this is your boom right here, and we're going to put this up through like this, and you pull the spring back like so, and then this comes up to whatever adjustment you want. So I'm just going to go with the second hole like on the picture. That seems to give me plenty of room here. And then the same thing on this side will come up through. This was designed to fit perfectly on an ATV rack. With a UTV, it's going to be a little bit different. Hopefully your UTV has anchor points on it like mine does, where I can go ahead and hook it up one end of the ratchet strap to, and then carefully come up over the top. And you want to make sure this is all smooth and flat all the way down. And then what I'm going to go ahead and do is hook this down here into the front anchor point of the gator, and then I'm going to tighten this down. So we're going to go ahead and move on to our spot sprayer now. This is your tank drain cap, your tank drain gasket, and this is a little tab that holds it together. So we're going to snap this on here, just like that. And then this gasket, you want to make sure the flat side here, there's a flat side, and then there's also a ridge side. Put the flat side towards the back of the cap. And that way when you seat this, the little ridge right there is going to go up against the nipple on the drain. So that's put together. All right, pay close attention to this part, because this part is very important. You've got a T on this tether right here. You're going to fold that back on itself and make a bullet, and then you're going to come out through the inside. That's the inside of it. So you're going to want the tether to come out the top. Don't go down through the top like this. You want to come out through, or in through the bottom, out through the top. Just like this, right here. You can pop that right through. There's your tether. So here's my cap, and there's a little anchor point right here. You can do the exact same thing. You're gonna fold that tether on itself again, and you're gonna push it through. You may need pliers, just be very careful you don't bust it. And then once it's through like that, it's connected. This part right here can be a little bit frustrating, but make sure you get the cap facing out, like this. And then you're gonna thread this on, and this, like I said, can be a little frustrating, so just be patient. and work that right around in a circle until it threads on like a cap. Once it's seated, go ahead and close that cap. We have 2 of these brackets, and they're going to go up like this so that when you set the wand in, it comes in from the top. So make sure that this little tab is facing up. Once you have the brackets installed, go ahead and test fit your wand to make sure that fits okay. It's going to be a little bit tight, but it only really fits one way, and that's kind of facing down. All right, so this next part is just a little bit tricky. This right here is your pressure regulator. Here's your knob right here that adjusts the pressure. And you look at all these different connections on there, and it might be a little bit confusing for some of you, and that's okay. That's what I'm here for. This right here is your diaphragm on your quick attach port here. And then this right here is your quick attach. It's like, you know, on your garden hose when you get those quick attaches. It's pretty much the same idea. So this is gonna snap in there like that, and you'll feel it seat. And then once it seats, go ahead and push that little diaphragm back, and that'll lock it in place. So this right here is your return pressure hose. We're gonna seat this down in here like that. Get that barb in there good. And then we're gonna bring this up and about 1/4 to 1/2 inch down. And we're gonna use the pliers to lock that in place. Don't squeeze it too hard or you'll destroy it. On your spot sprayer, this is a 3/8 hose, and then you got 2 of these little quick attaches right here that will lock it in place. So you've got a 3/8 here, and then you got a 1/2 inch here. So you know the 1/2 inch will go down here. I want the small one, the 3/8. So we're gonna hook this into that barb on the small, right there. Once you feel it go in, and then you can lock this on with this after. And generally speaking, when I do something like this, you want to come out about between a 1/4 and a 1/2 inch. You'll know once you turn it on and get pressure if you've got it in the right spot or not, because it'll leak and spray. All right, this is your pressure gauge. We're going to put a little bit of Teflon tape on that. Just a couple of good wraps. Fortunately for me, I have this marine battery that's all charged up and ready to use. Before you go tooling off and spraying everything, you want to make sure you get that fastened down so it's not sliding all over the place. This is designed to hook it to your UTV, ATV battery, but with the gator, it's just a little bit more of a pain to get down into that battery compartment. So just for ease of use, I've already got the battery. I'm going to go ahead and do it this way. So we're going to attach this quick connect right here. Like that. Make sure your switch is off. I is on. O is off. And we'll hook this onto the battery. All right, so just remember that red is positive, black is negative. This right here is your valve for your boom. This is on, off. Here's your deal. Make sure your drain is closed, and we're just going to run a few gallons of water in here just to test it out. All right, let's put the cap back on. So you want to turn your regulator in until it stops running. By looking at that, I'd say that's at least 10 feet. So that's a good spray. And the wand, make sure you have this thing facing down. Last thing you want to do is turn that switch on and have this pointing up at your face and whatever you have in there coming in your eyes. After you're done spraying, it's always a good idea to turn the switch off here and then turn your regulator down until the pressure goes away. And that way you don't have built up pressure sitting in your sprayer. Thank you for watching. I hope you have a great day.